Hey everyone, it's me, Alex Lee, GamesBeat's lead news writer, and I'm here for another episode of The Big Show. We're here at the Grammy Museum in Los Angeles for GamesBeat's Hollywood and Games Summit, and it's my pleasure to introduce Helene Juguet, who is the managing director of Ubisoft Film and Television in Paris, and also as a result of that, the executive producer on a number of different projects that Ubisoft Film and Television has put together, including the recently launched Splinter Cell Death Watch television series that came out in October on Netflix.
Hi, Alex.
Welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you again. Hopefully, Helene is not too sick of me because we actually just came off of the stage for the panel discussion that we did about Splinter Cell. And now we're here for maybe a little more informal discussion focused on you and your trajectory through this industry. As someone whose work touches on both Hollywood and gaming in really interesting ways, maybe to get us started, do you mind just walking us through your career?
Sure. I've been in gaming for 27 years, and actually at Ubisoft for 27 years. But
wow.
Yeah, I first started on the gaming side of things and then moved on to film and television. So I say I've had two very different jobs. Also, I've been on two different continents because part of my career was at the San Francisco office.
Oh.
I started in Paris and moved to the San Francisco office after 2 years, where I had the pleasure of inheriting the Clancy franchise. So I was the French woman doing one of the most American franchise you could have. So that was kind of interesting, especially at the time.
Because that was 2003?
Yeah.
So this is the Freedom Fries era, you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting time to be the French woman talking about U.S. military. I remember a few things from that time, but I survived.
Glad to hear it.
At that time, so I was super lucky to inherit an amazing game like Splinter Cell, and made the recommendation to Ubisoft that we should put it under the Clancy name because it would benefit from it. And it was such an amazing game. So we managed to do that and launch it. And so I'm super psyched that in my second life, I would say professional life at Ubisoft, I actually was in charge of taking that IP and bringing it to the smaller screen through the Netflix TV show. So that was that's like a full circle. It's kind of cool.
Love that.
And so I came back to France after that around 2008. To take over I was in marketing at the time. So I ended up my marketing career, let's say, or the part of my career that was marketing led as being the head of brand strategy for Ubisoft. I was managing all of the brand managers that were within the different studios.
Wow.
So the very early process of positioning, finding who to address with the game, etc. And after that, once I had done pretty much every marketing job at Ubisoft, I kind of changed paths and decided to go into film and television.
So how long have you been in your current role at film and television?
Since 2014, so it's been a while. Different roles, but ended up being the MD of the Paris office.
So you've been in this world of the confluence of Hollywood and television for longer than it's really been such a hot topic. I mean, we're here
absolutely
more than 10 years since you started this role, and now we have this whole event that is dedicated. We have hundreds of people coming to talk about Hollywood and gaming. But for you, I mean, in 2014, I think it's fair to say that those were still early days. So what inspired you to make that transition? Can you walk me through that process of going from gaming to Hollywood?
Sure. You're right. We were early. Ubisoft Film and Television was created as, I think we were one of the first gaming company to really open a division. A few others did that after, but they closed down. Because it's an interesting beast.
Yeah.
And I've had that question of convergence for so many years. I've seen it grow, and it's really actually quite I would say a step to see that there's a specific conference about that topic is a really a nice journey to watch. So what was it to be transitioning from one to the other? I think at the beginning, it was kind of starting over educating people and making them understand why this mattered. We were kind of, Hollywood did not really consider gaming at the time.
Right.
And I think it took a generation of gamer to be in charge in Hollywood to really change that and arrive to where we are today, where you actually have conference about the convergence of those two. But it was interesting to see that process grow because you have the best showrunners now in the industry. Not the best, but a lot of showrunners in the industry are gamers.
Right.
And they're the one that decide what next project gets made, because they go to the producer in Hollywood and say, I want to make that movie. I want to make that TV series. And they have that power. And they are being listened to. And also because the kids also of some of the producers have, they grew up playing games, and suddenly they're realizing the potential, the power, and the cultural imprint it has taken. So it's been kind of a coming of age story, really, of the gamers coming out of their basement and suddenly being out in the open, like, oh my God, they've been here all along. We didn't know. What have we been thinking?
So it sounds like, in a way, your experience building gaming brands is still very relevant to what you guys are trying to accomplish in Hollywood. And maybe to turn that into more of a question for you. Yeah, I mean, like, how have you found that your experience in gaming has been applicable to your work in film and television?
I would say we've been entrusted by our partners to know what's best for our fans and our communities. And that was a big testament to our expertise, what we know, how we handle things. And that, Netflix trusts us completely for reaching out to the right people, getting the right message, crafting the right marketing campaign also with them. And they have the muscle, but we know who, we know how, we know where. And that has been also a very interesting way of becoming aware of that, this was really our expertise, and we knew the power of that community.
Yeah.
Both in a positive and sometimes difficult way to handle. And it felt like we knew that secret from the get-go, and nobody was quite understanding it. And suddenly the secret is out, and people are seeking now that community, and they're seeking our knowledge of how we deal with them, how we talk to them, how we manage them, and avoiding the mistakes that we make sometimes also. So it's like we have that secret knowledge of cultural relevancy with communities that suddenly becomes super important in Hollywood.
Really interesting. So to turn this question around in the other, was there anything that you found was fundamentally different about Hollywood and the gaming community and the gaming industry that you had to learn and change your approach to address?
Yeah, absolutely. The way we make our games completely differently. In games, we are the publisher, we are the decision maker, we are the investor. So we decide what we make, what we produce as a game, when, how much money we want to put behind it, and we release it through our partners, of course, the first parties. But we're completely in control. We take our risk. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail. In the TV and movie business, we decide that we actually look for a partner that come and finance what we're doing. So we're not as much in control of our destiny than we are on the gaming side. And so that's one of the big things. Like, you put together a package and then you go find someone that is willing to put the money behind it to get it produced. We are the producer still, but you do have financier and commissioners that will buy the rights to your IP or to the TV shows or the movie. But we do have to deal with partners that have a say in the creative, that have a say in the targets, that have a say in the marketing. So it's a very different role, a different position to be in, for sure. And what I've learned also is the package you put together, like having a big name actor, a big name showrunner, is super important, or actor, of course, to the interest people will have in your show. Whereas in the gaming industry, it's not as important because it's gameplay first.
Right.
Community tools. Of course, having a great actor is a plus. Of course, having amazing music is very, very important to the game. But you don't necessarily set it up the same way at all. So that was a learning curve.
And, I saw this expressed in Splinter Cell. A few of the things that you've said. For example, you guys hired Liev Schreiber to voice Sam Fisher, which, I mean, he's, A or B list Hollywood star, an A or B list Hollywood star for sure.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, what is the process of convincing talent to come on board for this kind of project? Was Liev like, hell yeah, I love Splinter Cell, I'm in? Or is there more convincing that needs to be done to show a big name that this is a valuable opportunity for them?
I think if you have someone that knows gaming or whose kids are gaming and understand the importance of the franchise, it's much easier conversation, for sure. And then that we have, I think people are becoming aware of the importance of video games, and it's still a TV show. There were several things that were a little bit more difficult. One, you're based on a video game. We're an animated show, so it's dubbing in some kind of way. And that's also a very different approach, because whether it's Leaf Sharp Schreiber or Kirby, Owell Baptist, they're live actors mostly.
Right.
And so transitioning to animation is a different job. So that was also interesting to be doing. But we didn't have that many difficulties to convince them to come on board, because they know it's an interesting medium. It's a different experience, and they usually love to experiment new things.
So I'd love to explore a little bit about, you mentioned working with partners in this way. This is a question that I wanted to ask you during our panel and have a chance. So I'm going to ask you now.
Sure.
Why did you guys decide to go with Netflix as the partner to launch Splinter Cell, Death Watch? And, more broadly, are there different platforms that are a different fit for certain IPs or genres or types of adaptations?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. When you start doing a development, you do it with a specific streamer in mind most of the time, because if you do your job well, you have an idea of what they're looking for, what their editorial line is. You don't do the same show with Apple TV Plus than you do with Amazon Prime, Prime Video, or with Netflix. Yeah. And at the time, because we were interested in animation, the real platform that was really going deep into adult animation was Netflix. They had a category. This is where people were going when they were animation fans. So it was kind of an obvious fit for us at the time. We had a very ambitious show in mind, and they were also the only one that were able to come to that level of commitment in terms of budget. So it was obvious that if we wanted to really do justice by Sam Fisher and Splinter Cell, they were the go-to person. And as I explained, they had the same feeling at the same time. So we kind of met there as like, yes, it's obvious we want to make a Splinter Cell animated TV series for adults. And there we go.
So no pressure with this. We can edit this one out if it's not a good question. But I was having a conversation with some people over dinner last night about the differences between the games that we see successfully adapted to TV and the games that we see successfully adapted to, feature films nowadays. A lot of the top feature film game adaptations from the last 3 years, whether it's Sonic or Minecraft or the Mario movie, have been with, maybe more broader audience, younger audience, maybe arguably more family-friendly games. Whereas we've seen some really successful television adaptations of games that are more adult-oriented, whether it's things like Splinter Cell, Death Watch, or also The Last of Us, which, came out over the last couple of years. Is television the right medium for adult-oriented game adaptations right now? Like, is there a reason why we're seeing TV be more successful in this arena?
I think there is. I think the way you create a story in a movie and the risk behind making a movie is a very different beast than a TV series.
Yeah.
And in movies, you need to gather as many people as possible at one moment in the theaters. And you want to be family friendly or wider audience, because you do need to hit those targets. So the way you're going to set it up is a little bit wider audience, of course. What's great with TV series is that you actually are able to tell long narrative arcs and build layers. And it actually adapts really well to a video game, because in video games, you have deep experiences of 40 hours or even much more than that when you, of course, for multiplayer games. And you are the director, meaning you decide where the protagonist goes. You decide what you do. You never have like a linear story that's already written. And so TV series are a great medium because they have all those layers possible through the different episodes to be representing that kind of stories and going deeper into certain areas, and not just having an hour and a half, 2 hours. Well, now 2.5 hours for some movies. So it allows you to go into depth into the universe that the game has built. And when you look at a game like Assassin's Creed, it's such a huge world and a huge universe. You could really tell 1,000 stories. So the fact that a TV series allows you to have several layers of characters and then prep for maybe the next season where that story of that character is going to be maybe a little bit flushed out more. I think that's why people feel like TV series are a great medium, and they can be a bit more edgy.
Yeah.
Sometimes, because you just adapt the budget to the target audience you're hoping you're going to get. So if you do something super edgy, super particular, then you know you're going to have a lower budget, but you can still tell that story. That is a very interesting story in that universe.
You know, I didn't think about this until you just said, so apologies for sharing my own opinion here. Your knowledge is the focus of this podcast, but you're so right. Games are an immersive and long form of entertainment. You're spending at least 40 hours playing a game, possibly more depending on the title. Television is probably the closest thing to that when we look at it. Well, I don't know, maybe audiobooks or something if you want to talk about things that take a really long time. But certainly television is a similar experience where you can throw yourself into a 40-hour long experience of this intellectual property. And so for gamers who are used to having that depth in their game, you're so right. It's just from a pure time perspective, it's a no-brainer that, television would do better in some ways. Which isn't to say that, the last 3 years, a top 5 movie has been a game adaptation. So I'm not downplaying that either, but I think it does validate your approach with TV. I want to talk a little bit. Let's go back to talking about your trajectory and what other people can take from this. First of all, do you anticipate that careers that cross over between gaming and Hollywood will be more commonplace moving forward?
Yes. I guess yes is the answer. I think what's going to happen is that people that know how to handle community, fandom, to answer to that, this is what's going to become the core of the expertise. Because once you're into that, you know how to create a cultural moment, cultural imprint, understand how they talk to each other, their language, or have people under you that understand it. I don't pretend to know everything about that, but I try to hire people that know and are able to translate that for me. Then whether you're offering gaming experience, movie, TV, manga, podcast.
Right.
I think you go down to the core of the DNA of what they care about and you express it in different ways. And that's more how I look at skills and the next move. It's more like if you have that base and that knowledge, then you can go to any of those entertainment places and translate that DNA and that core and that community feeling, that fandom, into different pieces that will feed their craving for more about that lore. And it can be cosplay, and it can be immersive experiences. I believe in live more than ever, and the value of live moments. The more your life becomes virtual, the more the value of real encounters, real moments shared together. And that's what we're seeing with the price of tickets for concerts going crazy and being sold in 30 seconds. I think those shared moments will become even more valuable because that's where that fandom can finally kind of geek together. That's what we used to say. Now it's not relevant anymore, but they share the same love and the same value and they understand each other. And you do need that connection. And I really believe that this is going to take more and more value as everything goes more virtual.
I think we need to come up with like a new terminology here for what you're describing, right? It's like the flattening of not flattening, but like the widening of culture into just like intellectual property worlds rather than these buckets of, film, TV, video games.
We were siloed out. We still are. It's still very siloed out. And I think it is, those walls will break. Hopefully, it would be better for everybody and become quite loose. That's how I see it. And that's what I wish for the industry because that's the way it's going to be able to move forward better.
So maybe to wrap this all up in a bow, if anyone wants to follow in your footsteps and work in this very specific but growing world of adapting adapting games into Hollywood, what's some advice that you have for them to help them succeed the way that you have?
Well, you got to start somewhere. It's not like if you tell yourself, "Oh, I want to be exactly at the intersection of gaming and movie and TV." Well, you have to either already be in a gaming company that has the rights to the IP and to do that, or a specific production company that targets on that, but then you need the rights. So somehow go to where the IP belongs, I think, is check where the rights are.
And forget about follow the money. Follow the IP.
Follow the IP, absolutely, because the IP is the money. So follow the IP. know your IP, know your stuff, get in deep, and follow the community. So follow the IP, follow the fans, is what I would say. And this is where the value is. If you understand what they care about, how it works, what it is about, what the DNA of that is, that's a great place to start to be relevant. And relevance is what will lead you to the next job.
Really well said, Helene. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you again for taking the time to join us for an episode of The Big Show.
That was lovely. Thank you, Alex.